Picture this. You're a crime victim waiting for justice, and someone hands you a court date for October 2029. That's not a typo. That's not a sick joke. That's the actual reality of Britain's justice system right now. We're talking about a system so broken it makes a chocolate teapot look functional. While Keir Starmer's been busy promising to halve violence against women and girls, his Justice Secretary David Lammy has been presiding over what can only be described as a complete and utter collapse of British justice. Today's figures aren't just bad, they're apocalyptically terrible, and they've got Starmer absolutely seething. This is UK Secrets, and we're about to dive into numbers so shocking they'd make a horror movie director blush. Let's start with the crown jewel of this disaster, rape cases. The backlog has exploded from 573 cases in June 2019 to a staggering 4,086 in June 2025. That's not just an increase, that's a sevenfold rocket launch into the stratosphere of judicial incompetence. To put that in perspective, that's like going from having a small leak in your roof to having your entire house swept away by a tsunami. And here's the kicker. This happened while Labour was in charge, supposedly fixing everything the Tories broke. But wait, it gets worse, because apparently the justice system has decided to play limbo with basic human decency, and boy are they winning. The overall court backlog has increased by 10% in just 1 year under Starmer's watch, jumping from 70,893 to 78,329 cases. That's not gradual decline, that's free fall with style. Legal sources are saying they haven't seen increases like this since COVID, when courts literally stopped working. The difference is, back then we had a global pandemic as an excuse. What's the excuse now? Too busy arguing about whether biscuits should be taxed? Now, David Lammy is supposed to be the man fixing this mess, but instead has become the captain of a sinking ship who's decided the best response is to rearrange the deck chairs while playing a violin. The man who should be our Justice Secretary is instead presiding over what can only be described as a judicial equivalent of a dumpster fire that's been doused in petrol and set alight by someone with a serious grudge against the concept of law and order. The sexual offense statistics alone are enough to make your blood boil. We're talking about 13,328 sexual offense cases waiting to be heard. That's up 20% in just 1 year. These aren't abstract numbers on a spreadsheet. These are real people whose lives are being put on hold while the justice system decides whether it can be bothered to function. Some of these victims are being told their cases might be heard in 2029. 2029. By then, some of these victims' children will be old enough to have their own court cases. And here's where it gets really infuriating. Crown courtrooms are sitting half empty while people wait years for justice. That's like having a hospital with empty operating theaters while people die on waiting lists. Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, hit the nail on the head when he called it disgraceful that rape trials are being scheduled for 2029 when Crown courtrooms are routinely sitting half empty. It's not just disgraceful, it's borderline criminal negligence dressed up in legal robes. The Criminal Bar Association is practically screaming into the void at this point. Chair Riel Carmer-Jones KC described criminal barristers as working to keep this crumbling system from collapsing for years, but admitted it become unsustainable. When the people whose job it is to make the system work are saying it's broken beyond repair, you know you've reached rock bottom and started digging. But here's where the numbers get truly stomach-churning. Nearly 1 in 5 backlog cases that have been open for at least 2 years are sexual offenses. Let me repeat that. 1 in 5 cases that have been waiting for over 2 years involve sexual crimes. We're talking about 1,070 sexual offense cases that have been open for 2 years or more. That's over 1,000 victims who've been waiting over 2 years for their day in court. The psychological torture of that waiting period is almost as bad as the original crime. Meanwhile, Westminster Magistrates Court was literally closed because there was no water in the building. No water. In 2025, Manchester arena bomb plotter Hashim Abedi couldn't even appear for his attempted murder charges because the court building didn't have basic utilities. That's not just embarrassing, that's a metaphor for the entire justice system. Dried up, non-functional, and about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. The Magistrates Court backlog has exploded to 361,027 cases, up 25% from the previous year. They gave magistrates more sentencing powers to help clear the Crown Court backlog, but instead of solving the problem, they just created a bigger mess at a different level. It's like trying to fix a traffic jam by building more roads that lead to an even bigger traffic jam. Katie Kempen from Victim Support nailed it when she said these aren't just statistics. They're real people often struggling to cope, losing faith in the system, and facing serious emotional and psychological consequences. While victims are suffering, the government has been cutting funding for victim support services. That's like setting someone's house on fire and then charging them for the water to put it out. Sir Brian Levison's landmark review is trying to fix this by removing jury trial rights for 220 offense categories, including some sex offenses. They want suspects tried by a judge and 2 magistrates instead. That's not reform, that's surrender. They are basically admitting the system is so broken they need to fundamentally change how British justice works just to make it function at all. What we're witnessing isn't just administrative incompetence. It's a complete breakdown of one of the fundamental pillars of civilized society. When people can't get justice in a reasonable time frame, when victims are told to wait 5 years for their day in court, when court buildings don't have basic utilities, you don't have a justice system anymore. You have a cruel joke masquerading as legal process. Starmer's fury at Lammy is completely justified, but the real question is what they're going to do about it. Because right now, British justice isn't just delayed, it's denied, and that's a crisis that threatens the very foundation of our democracy. Thanks for watching UK Secrets. If this breakdown of Britain's justice crisis opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button and let's keep exposing the truths they don't want you to see.